It was a bright morning in early spring. When I was young, I woke up before the alarm. I couldn't sleep well the night before. My wife was lying next to me, breathing slowly. Today was the day we had waited for. After months of hope and planning, it was finally happening. We were going to meet our baby. I felt nervous, but I was also full of joy. We had packed everything the night before. The hospital bag was near the door. I made a quick breakfast, but I could barely eat. My wife smiled and said, "It's time." I helped her into the car. The sky was clear, and the streets were quiet. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath. Every minute felt important. At the hospital, the nurse welcomed us warmly. She walked us to a quiet room. The room smelled like soap and medicine. My wife changed into a gown and lay on the bed. I sat beside her, holding her hand. A doctor came in and checked her. He said, "It will take some hours. Try to relax." But I couldn't relax. Time moved slowly. I kept looking at the clock. My wife was calm, breathing slowly through the pain. I tried to stay strong for her. I held her hand and whispered soft words. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she closed her eyes and said nothing. I didn't know what else to do. I just stayed with her. Hours passed, and the pain grew stronger. The nurse came in more often. The doctor came again and said, "Not long now." I could see the fear and strength in my wife's eyes. She was so brave. I felt helpless, but I didn't leave her side. We were in this moment together, and I wanted her to feel safe. Finally, the doctor said it was time. Everything happened so fast. Nurses moved around quickly. The doctor gave instructions. My wife started to push. Her face was red, and she cried out. I held her hand and counted with her. My heart was beating so fast, I could hardly breathe. And then, I heard it. A baby's first cry filled the room. The doctor smiled and said, "It's a girl." My wife looked at me with tears in her eyes. I couldn't stop crying. I had never felt anything like it before. The nurse wrapped the baby in a blanket and placed her in my wife's arms. She was tiny, warm, and perfect. I sat beside them and looked at our daughter. Her hands were like little stars. Her eyes were closed and she made small sounds. I touched her hand and she held my finger. That simple touch went deep into my heart. In that moment, I knew my life had changed forever. I was not just a man now. I was a father. We stayed in the hospital for 2 days. Those 2 days felt like a dream. I hardly slept, but I didn't care. I spent every moment looking at my daughter. She was so small, so quiet, and so perfect. Her little fingers, her tiny nose, her soft skin, everything amazed me. I could not believe she was really mine. I had waited for this day for so long, and now it was real. My wife was tired, but she smiled every time she held the baby. I brought her water, helped her sit up, and made sure she had everything she needed. She looked at me and said, "You're already a great father." That made me smile. I didn't feel like I was doing much, but I wanted to be strong for both of them. They were my whole world now, and I wanted to protect them. The nurses were kind and helpful. They showed us how to hold the baby, how to change her, and how to feed her. I listened carefully and took notes in my head. Every small task felt big to me. The first time I changed her diaper, I was so nervous. My hands shook, and I made a mess. But the nurse just laughed and said, "Don't worry. All new dads do that." That made me feel better. On the second night, the baby cried a lot. I walked around the room with her in my arms. I whispered songs and talked to her. She didn't understand the words, but I think she liked the sound of my voice. Her crying stopped after a while, and she fell asleep on my chest. I looked down at her and felt something deep inside me. It was love. Real, strong love that I'd never felt before. When it was time to leave the hospital, I felt nervous again. The nurse placed the baby in her car seat and showed me how to buckle it. I checked everything twice. I drove slowly and carefully. Every bump on the road felt big. I kept looking in the mirror to check on her. My wife laughed and said, "Relax, you're doing fine." I smiled, but my hand stayed tight on the wheel the whole way home. When we got home, everything looked different. The house was the same, but now it felt warmer. It felt full. We had prepared the baby's room a few weeks ago. It had soft colors and little toys. I walked into the room and placed her in the crib. She opened her eyes and looked around. My wife stood beside me. We both watched her in silence. It was a quiet and beautiful moment. That night, we didn't sleep much. She woke up many times. I helped with the feeding and changing. My body was tired, but my heart was full. Every cry, every little sound was important. I knew this was the beginning of something new. Life was different now. It was harder, but it was also more meaningful. I was no longer just a husband. I was a father now, and I had a family to care for. Before I closed my eyes that night, I looked at my wife and my daughter. They were both sleeping. I felt proud, lucky, and full of love. I whispered to myself, "This is the best day of my life." And I knew that many more beautiful days were coming. I just had to be ready for them, one day at a time. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The house was quiet. I walked to the baby's room. She was still sleeping. I watched her for a moment. Her tiny chest moved up and down. Her hands were near her face. She looked peaceful. I smiled and whispered, "Good morning, little one." I didn't want to wake her. So I slowly closed the door and went to make coffee. As I waited for the coffee, I thought about the past few days. Everything had changed so fast. I was still the same person, but I felt different inside. I had more purpose now. I had someone who needed me all the time. It was a big responsibility, but I welcomed it. I had waited for this role for years, and now it was finally mine. Later that day, we had our first visitors. My parents came to meet their granddaughter. My mother cried when she saw the baby. My father smiled and said, "She looks like you." They brought gifts and food, and stayed for a while. I watched them hold the baby with care. I saw how much they loved her already. That made me even more grateful. In the evening, I gave my daughter her first bath at home. I was careful and slow. The water was warm, and I used a soft cloth. She moved a little and made small sounds. I talked to her the whole time. I said things like, "You are safe, and Daddy is here." She looked at me with wide eyes. I didn't know if she understood, but it felt like she did. After the bath, we wrapped her in a soft towel. My wife dressed her in clean clothes. She looked fresh and sweet. We sat together on the couch. My wife leaned on my shoulder, and the baby lay in her arms. I looked at them and felt lucky again. The day had been long and full, but I didn't feel tired. I felt happy and calm. That night, while everyone was asleep, I sat alone for a while. I thought about the future. I thought about teaching her things. I imagined her first steps, her first words, her first day of school. I wanted to be there for all of it. I knew there would be hard times too, but I was ready. I wanted to grow with her and learn how to be the best father I could be. The next morning, I wrote a note. It was short and simple. "You are my joy. You are my heart. I will always be here." I placed it in a small box where I planned to keep memories, pictures, drawings, and letters. One day, when she is older, I will show it to her. I want her to know how much she was loved from the very beginning. Every day with her feels special. Even the hard parts feel important. Life has a new rhythm now. It's slower, softer, but deeper. I don't need big things to feel happy anymore. A small smile, a quiet moment, or a little yawn from her is enough. This is a new chapter, and I want to write every page with love. The days started to pass quickly. Each day brought something new. The baby made small sounds, moved her hands, and looked around more. I watched her learn and grow. Every new thing she did felt like magic. I never thought something so small could change my world so much. It was only a baby, but she had already taught me many things. One morning, I was holding her by the window. The sun came through the glass and touched her face. She blinked and smiled a little. That small smile made my heart feel warm. I smiled back and said, "Good morning, sunshine." I knew she didn't understand the words, but I said them anyway. I liked talking to her. It made me feel closer to her. We had some hard days, too. Sometimes she cried for hours, and we didn't know why. We tried everything: feeding, changing, holding. Some nights, we didn't sleep at all. My wife was tired, and so was I. But we didn't give up. We helped each other. We took turns. We stayed strong for her. We knew she needed us every moment. On the baby's first walk outside, we took her to the park. The weather was nice, and the trees were full of green. Birds were singing, and the air was soft. I pushed the stroller slowly, and my wife walked beside me. People smiled when they saw the baby. Some said, "She's beautiful." We smiled back and felt proud. She was our little star. When we got home that day, I wrote something in my journal. I didn't write much before, but now I wanted to remember everything. I wrote about her first walk, her smile, the way she looked at the sky. I wanted to keep these memories safe. I knew the days would go fast, and I didn't want to forget anything. One night, while I was feeding her, she looked into my eyes. It was a deep look, quiet and full. I felt like she knew I was her father. I felt like she trusted me. That moment was small, but it stayed with me. I kept thinking about it long after she fell asleep. I wanted to be the kind of man she could always trust. Every week brought changes. She grew a little more. Her sounds became louder. Her eyes followed us when we moved. She smiled more often. Each change was a gift. I took pictures and videos. I sent them to family and friends. Everyone loved her. She brought happiness to so many people just by being here. Sometimes I just sat and watched her sleep. Her face was calm, her breathing soft. I thought about how lucky we were. Life had given us something so special. I knew there would be many more days like this. Hard days, easy days, quiet days, but all of them full of love, and that was all I needed. One morning I stood near the window with her in my arms. The sunlight came in softly. Her eyes followed the light. Her hands moved slowly in the air. I looked at her and smiled. She smiled too, just a little. That small smile made me feel warm inside. I stayed there for a while, holding her and enjoying the quiet. That weekend we visited her grandparents again. They were so happy to see her. My mother held her close and kissed her cheeks. My father gently rocked her. The baby laughed and we all joined her. It felt like a happy dream. These small visits made us feel more connected. They brought us closer as a family. At night I often thought about her future. What kind of person would she be? Would she be shy or strong? Would she love reading or dancing? I had so many questions. But I knew one thing for sure. I would be there. I would support her always. I would love her through every step. One afternoon my wife danced with her in the living room. Soft music played in the background. The baby looked up and smiled. My wife moved gently with her in her arms. I stood by the door, watching in silence. That moment stayed with me. It was simple but full of love. In the evenings we started taking walks. The air was cool and quiet. The baby usually fell asleep in her stroller. We walked slowly, enjoying the peace. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. These short walks helped us feel calm. They gave us space to breathe. I began writing small letters to her. I wrote about our days and my feelings. I shared my hopes for her. I talked about love and family. I placed the letters in a box. One day I'll give them to her. I hope they make her smile. Sometimes I thought about the world outside. It can be difficult and scary. But when I looked at her, I felt hope. I focused on the present. I reminded myself to stay strong. She needed me now, and I was ready. Before bed, I always checked on her. She slept quietly in her crib. I whispered, "Good night, my star." Then I smiled and went to bed. No matter how tired I was, I felt happy. I knew I was living the best part of my life. Time passed, and every day with her was a gift. She started making new sounds. She laughed louder and reached for our faces. I watched her discover her hands, her feet, and her voice. Every small thing she did felt big to me. I never got tired of watching her. She made me feel proud even when all she did was smile or yawn. Her world was growing, and so was mine. We started reading to her every night. Even though she didn't understand the words, she listened. Her eyes followed the pictures on the pages. My wife read slowly, and I turned the pages. Sometimes she made little sounds as if she wanted to talk too. It became our favorite bedtime routine. The room felt calm, and our hearts felt full. We were not just reading stories. We were making them. Her first tooth came on a cold morning. She cried a lot that week, and we didn't sleep much. But when I saw that tiny white tooth, I smiled. I picked her up and said, "You're growing up." My wife laughed, tired but happy. That small tooth meant time was moving forward. I felt proud, but also a little sad. I wanted her to grow, but I also wanted her to stay small forever. We took many pictures. Her first smile, her first toy, her first time sitting up. I saved them all in albums. I even printed some and put them on the wall. Every photo was a piece of our story. When I looked at them, I felt the love in our home. These pictures reminded me of what really mattered: family, love, and time together. I knew I would treasure them always. Sometimes I sat alone and thought about the day she was born. I remembered every detail. The rain, the rush to the hospital, the moment I saw her for the first time. That memory stayed fresh in my heart.